We're back. Hello again, everyone. Thank you to all of you who kindly contributed to the Hall's Museum Fund. Also, just a reminder that our silent auction is now closed. You can check on your bids at the auction table at the end of our ceremonies. This is also a good time in our program to recognize a number of Hall of Fame honorees who have joined us for this special evening. Please welcome my former boss, Lou Lamoriello. Bob Belmore. My former color announcer, Digit Murphy. Paul Gay. Sarah DaCosta. Tom Mellor. Brian Berard. Harvey Bennett Jr. His brother Kurt Bennett, all the way from Hawaii. And Pete Demers, here from Los Angeles. Also with us tonight are the families of Hall of Famers Zelio Topazzini, Bill Belisle, Joe Kavanaugh, Bill Thayer, and Judge James E. Dooley. Welcome to all of you. You may have already recognized the voice on our first video profile. It's that of Pawtucket native, former Tolman hockey star, and my good friend Dave Gosher, the TV voice of the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, normally, you only get to hear Dave. Tonight, we're happy that he's joining us here tonight as well. Gosh, thank you. Dave also has the distinction of having starred, I use that term very loosely, Gosh, starred on the first team, our first inductee of the evening coached here in Rhode Island. Our first inductee was a star defenseman drafted by both the NHL and WHA before a successful pro career, but his hockey legacy will be greatly defined by a record-breaking coaching tenure in his adopted state. This is his hockey journey.
Joe Augustine. Joe was born in 1955 and raised in Chicago with his two hockey-playing brothers. He became a Hall of Fame player at St. Rita High School, inspired by his talented older brother Jim, who was enshrined in the Illinois Hockey Hall of Fame in 2009. After high school, the defenseman played juniors in the USHL. His impressive stats earned him a spot on the U.S. Junior All-American team selected by the NHL and played for Team USA in the 1975 IIHF World Junior Championships in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. During that year, Joe was drafted twice, first by the Atlanta Flames in the NHL draft and then by the Cleveland Crusaders in the WHA draft. He opted for Boston College, helping the Eagles to a Beanpot Championship in 1976 and an ECAC Championship and second-place finish in the 1978 NCAA Finals held here in Providence. In his 3 seasons with the Eagles, Joe scored 27 goals and 104 points, becoming one of only 6 defensemen in BC history to reach the 100 career points plateau. In 2005, he was inducted into the Boston College Hall of Fame. In 1979, after his junior year, Joe signed as a free agent with the New York Rangers. He played 4 seasons in the Rangers, Calgary Flames, and New Jersey Devils organizations while earning his college degree during the offseason. Joe began his coaching career in 1983 as an assistant at Tolman High School in Pawtucket. After 2 seasons, he moved crosstown as head coach at Shea High School, leading the Raiders to an impressive 19-1 record, winning both division and state titles. He later served as an assistant coach at Brown and then head coach for the Community College of Rhode Island. Joe took the helm at URI in 1989. While working as an advanced scout for the AHL's Cornwall Aces in 1995, the top farm club for the NHL's Quebec Nordiques, Joe served as a member of the NCAA Organizational Committee for the 1995 NCAA Ice Hockey Tournament in Providence. In 2006, Joe served as an assistant for Team USA at the World University Games in Turin, Italy. In 2009, he served as head coach for Team USA at those games in Harbin, China. The 2023-24 season marked Joe's 35th as head coach at URI. Over his tenure, he has coached over 1,000 games for the Rams. His 708th win this season marked the most by any URI coach in any sport in URI history. Along the way, he has guided his teams to 32 winning seasons, including the 2006 ACHA National Championship. Joe received back-to-back ACHA Men's Division I Coach of the Year honors in 2005 and 2006, and was the ECAC Coach of the Year in 2004. He was most recently honored with the ESCHL Coach of the Year award for the 2015 season. Joe resides in North Scituate, Rhode Island, with his wife Jewel, a former Ice Capade skater. His son John and daughter Jacqueline both reside in Providence.
Please welcome 2024 Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame inductee, Joe Augustine. Presenting Joe with his Hall of Fame medallion is Brad Boss, the man who helped found URI hockey as a student and bestowed on URI the rink which bears his father's name.
We call your name to the Hall of Fame. We call your name to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to all the inductees. It's going to be all downhill from here, so just I want to thank Vin and Mal and their whole staff for all they do for this. They do such a great job here, and they should receive a round of applause. Thank you. I'd like to thank my family first, because then I won't forget, and if I go off the rails and I'm still good at home. So my wife Joel, my son John, his wife Jacqueline, our little grandson James, my daughter Jacqueline, with a significant other Mike. He hasn't signed his contract yet, so that's coming May 9th, so we're still negotiating that. You know, leading up to this, you get a million things in your mind of what you should say, and including the phone calls that I've been getting the last couple days. If I'm going to tell jokes, I have one of my former players want to know if I'm going to talk about William Wallace. I didn't know who he was talking about. From Braveheart, he's sending me the video when William Wallace is going to be decapitated, and he yells freedom. I actually would have been good with that, but I am been in Rhode Island for so long, everybody thinks I'm from here. They always ask what high school I went to. As you heard, I'm from the south side of Chicago. If you ever flown into Midway Airport, if you're on the left side of the plane, you probably could see us sitting on our front porch. So that's because we can see you in the airplane. We skated. Pretty much, I didn't have the opportunities like a lot of people did to skate in rinks, so we skated on ponds, lagoons, and the train yards, and we also skated at a chemical factory down the street just on Saturdays and Sundays because there's no security. The ice was purple, yellow, green, and of course we didn't have water bottles, so you eat the snow off the skates. So everybody who knows me, you can kind of put two and two together and figure that out. You know, coaching and playing, you don't do it by yourself. And I actually just have a list of so many people when I start coaching. John Harwood was my agent when I was playing, and at the crossroads of my career, he wanted to know if I wanted to coach. That's when I went to Tolman High School with, as an assistant coach, the best thing I've ever done. Learning how to coach, learn how to deal with young people. Ray McGee was a teacher, an educator, a football coach. Dave Gosher played for him. He used terminology I never heard of before, but he was such a great man. He's a great man, and he literally opened his home to me. Was on the Shea High School where they went 19-1-1, and I'm going to say it was led by Howie Rosenblatt because he's the only one here from that team, so I kind of enjoy it. From there, I moved on to Brown University, and with the late Herb Hammond, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. They always say that you should learn more from losing. When you lose, you learn more than winning. Well, we should have came out of there like hockey Einsteins, because it wasn't very pretty there for a couple of years, but it was a learning experience of trying to figure out things when things aren't going well. And I'm thankful to Herb for doing that. After Brown University, not to get off track, but I had a couple opportunities in the country to go to different schools, and one of them was RPI with the late Mike Odessa. And I went in for my interview, and my wife was pregnant with our first child, and she's a true Rhode Islander, so she cried all the way to Troy, New York. And when Coach Odessa offered me the job, she was hysterical all the way home. So that's how I ended up at CCRI for a year. So and coached there with Dave Cloxton, and our goalie coach was Bill Milner, a good friend and also one of the greatest goalies that Providence College has ever had. From there, I went to URI. That's where Art Tuvison, who's here tonight, hired me. He said he hired me because he used to heckle me when we played at University of New Hampshire. He was working up there. And I think he hired me just to keep heckling me, so that's why he brought me in. Art is actually he's the one who has actually put a great program together. He's retired now, but he's the one who started it. I did put the assistant coaches at URI's, all the assistant coaches, in alphabetical order, because I have one or two that would be hurt because I said the other person's name before theirs. Table number 8, whatever it is over there. Mark Andriozzi, you may know some of these names. Mark Andriozzi, Trent Baker, Bob Belmar works with us, Ray Boudiette, Mike Britt, Matt Burns, Paul Cannell, Jim Kramer, Brendan Daly, John Fahey, Derek Foster, Adam Gilbert, Bobby Jackson, Graham Johnson, John Joels, Craig Kilroy, Paul Nadeau, the late Jay Octo, Christian Rigamonti, Howie Rosenblatt, Max St. Sever, Ben Upham, and our present assistant coach right now is Chris Winnis. I thank them for all they do. I know everybody's sitting there saying that's a lot of coaches in 30, but either we're moving them on to bigger, better things, or I'm too hard to work for. I don't know, one of the two. I'd like to thank the people from the University of Rhode Island. Our president is not here this evening, Mark Parlange, a wonderful, wonderful guy. He's really the Wayne Gretzky of university presidents. He's a fantastic person. I hope they let him do great things down the school. Our Vice President of Student Affairs is here tonight, Ellen Reynolds. Ellen, wave to everybody, please. She's there somewhere. Our Director, Jody Hawkins. Our Director, Joe Wilbur. I'd like to thank our medical staff, Dr. Shalvoy, Dr. Cowan, Dr. Fedden, and Richard Peliquin, our physician's assistant. Trainers, Dave Pizzullo, Joe Maynard, our old equipment man, maybe you know him, Donnie Paglarini. Our bus driver for 28 years is here tonight, Abel Raposa. He's waiting for me to retire, that's why he keeps driving. And Christian Rigamonti is also here. Christian's the Director of Hockey Operations. He's a former player at URI, a former assistant coach, and he's kind of the Wizard of Oz. Without him, we wouldn't be anywhere with our program. He does a fantastic job. I'd like to thank Art Tuvus again for all the things he has done for our program. And Brad Boss, Mr. Boss, is We should all thank him for what he's done with hockey, with the arena down at our university, not only for the state, but especially the people down in South County. The game has grown immensely down there because of him and because of that arena. You know, in closing, I just want to say, I don't know if a lot of people have come down to our games. I think you should come down and take a look. We have true student athletes, especially in today's world of hockey and today's world of college sports. We don't have any, and nobody's getting NIL money. We don't have a transfer portal. We don't have people in the transfer portal because they're not on the power play. We have true student athletes who love the game, who come and play for 4 years and have a great experience. We play Division III teams at times, and I think people, if you ever saw us play, you'd be pleasantly surprised at the level of play. I know the Division III teams are not pleasantly surprised when we play them. We put people in the NHL, not as players. We have 2 players right now, former players. One is Derek Douglas, who was the strength and conditioning coach with the New York Islanders, and the other one is Chris Porter, who's on the training staff for the Boston Bruins. So we do put people in the NHL. In closing, I'd like to say thank you so much for doing this. We will want to keep everybody, if I had a nickel for every time we discussed why we don't have varsity hockey down at the university, we'd have a varsity program by now. Brad Boss's dream is to have a varsity program, and so is our tourist, and I hope we can keep that alive. Thank you.
Our next honoree is one of Rhode Island's most famous and accomplished hockey families. Tonight, he becomes an honored member of the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame alongside his father and 2 of his 5 talented brothers. But before we present the highlights of his hockey story, we've got a video message for him from some of his pals.
Hey Billy, Reggie Lemon here. Obviously, you always introduce yourself to me anyway. It's funny, but hey, we're here and we're thinking of you. Congratulations on your induction tonight. Go get him, big boy.
Hi, so my name's Bob Cormier. I'm the director of hockey operations for the alumni team. Billy, congratulations. What can be said? You've been with the alumni for years. From my standpoint, where I'm running everything on ice and off ice at each event, class individual, you get things done, never say no to autographs, show up on time. You're the best. You deserve this.
Hi, my name's John Horrigan. I'm the announcer for the Boston Bruins alumni. Wishing Billy Bennett congratulations going into the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame. A great hockey family, so much tradition. Billy, I know that you're not going in for speed skating, but man, you're a presence in front of the net. Congratulations. Thanks for being with us for so many years.
Hi, Joe Mullen here. Just wanted to tell Billy Bennett and Joe Augustine congratulations for their induction into the Rhode Island Hall of Fame.
Hello, Terry O'Reilly here. Just wanted to say congratulations, Billy. Great honor, well deserved, and have a great evening. Sorry we can't be there.
Hi, Rick Middleton, Boston Bruins, and a longtime good friend and fan of Billy Bennett. I go way back with Billy to the 70s, and he's actually older than me, and there's not many Bruins around that are. But Billy, I wanted to congratulate you on the induction tonight. Well deserved. Sorry you're going to miss this great party we're at, but I know how you hate to miss a party. I'm sure you're going to have a big one tonight of your own.
Bruce Crowder here, Billy. Man, congratulations. I tell you, I miss you today. I hope you still brought some food for us when it comes along this way. But the biggest thing is, you're the man. Best of luck.
Billy, your buddy Brick here, teammate, alumni Bruins. Congratulations. Hall of Fame, Rhode Island hockey. No greater honor. I'll tell you what, you might be the most underrated player of all time. The pleasure playing with you in the alumni games. I wish I had the opportunity to play with you when we were both playing pro. Congratulations again.
Thank you to the Boston Bruins alumni who, along with Bill, continue to raise funds for worthy causes and conduct youth hockey clinics for communities throughout New England. Thanks from us for all you do. Now, please enjoy some insight into Bill Bennett's incredible hockey journey.
William Bill Bennett. Hulking left winger Bill Bennett was born in Warwick, Rhode Island in 1953 and into one of the foremost hockey families in the United States, one of 5 brothers who all went pro. Like all of them, Bill starred at Cranston East High School and now follows his father Harvey and brothers Kurt and Harvey Jr. as honored members of the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame. As a youth, Bill was the only Bennett boy intent on following in his father's path as a goaltender. By age 15, he realized his skills were more suited for the open ice, and he moved to defense in high school. The transition was a complete success. After high school, Bill made the leap to Canada and earned a spot with the Windsor Spitfires in the Ontario Juniors. His reputation now grew as a goal scorer. Bill was signed as a free agent by the Boston Bruins in 1976. The Bees assigned him to the Columbus Owls of the IHL for the 1976-77 season. After scoring 27 goals and 57 points that year, Bennett jumped to the AHL and the Rochester Americans for their playoff run at the tail end of the season. Bill spent the entire following campaign with the Amherst. His play caught the attention of the Bruins, and Bill was called up the following season. During his time in Boston, the 6'5", 235-pound winger was the biggest and considered the most imposing player in the NHL. On his very first shift with the Bees, Bill jumped over the boards and remarkably scored his first NHL goal just 3 seconds later. Bill returned to the AHL and the Americans later that season. He continued to score at a team-leading pace, ending the year with 33 goals and 71 points. It would be the highest single-season point total any of the Bennett brothers would ever register as a pro. After his personal best season, Bennett returned to the NHL with the Hartford Whalers. Following his time there, Bill played several more seasons with the AHL Springfield Indians and Hershey Bears, the CHL's Wichita Wind, and the IHL's Fort Wayne Comets. After his playing days, Bill returned home to Rhode Island. Over the following 40 years, to the benefit of several generations of our state's young hockey talents, and continuing in the tradition begun by his father many years earlier, he became one of our state's most well-known ambassadors and teachers of the game, as both a youth instructor and high school coach. Bill also remains familiar to New England hockey fans as a popular figure with the Bruins Alumni Association, playing in charity games and instructing at the Bruins' many regional instructional clinics.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Bennett to the stage. Presenting him with his Hall of Fame medallion are his brothers, Jim Bennett, and Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Famers Kurt and Harvey Jr.
We say it loud 'cause we're Rhody proud. We call your name to the Hall of Fame. We call your name to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's a tough act to follow. Joe did a really good job. Oh, boy. Table 9. That's a makeup. Okay, I got a little speech here written out. Me and my wife worked on it. Everybody gave us a lot of advice, what to say and everything, but, well, here we go. That's page 4. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being part of this special night for me and the other inductees. I'd like to first say public speaking is not one of my strengths, so bear with me. I'd first like to thank Vince Zamini and Mal Goldberg for their continued effort to put the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame, yeah, I'm struggling here, boy. Oof. And thank you for the selection committee for this honor. Congratulations to the other inductees, Joe Augustine, Tim Regan, and Vicky Lamorello, and Chuck Scherzer. I feel especially honored to be inducted with Chuck, who was a very good friend of my dad and teammate of my father, and he played with him. They came out, they're from out west, they came east together. Very good friends. And finally, my family and friends are here tonight. Now, what I do at my hockey schools, and I'd like you people to do it too, is I'd like everybody to take a knee. So I was worried that you wouldn't be able to get up after that, so. That's why. Hey, look at these guys. You want to be hockey players? Oh boy. So everybody, I did that. And when I do my hockey schools, I make everybody take a knee. And they all have masks on, so I can't really see the expressions on their face, you know, because I want to see their reaction. But you guys don't have masks. Face masks. So, I mean, don't worry about it. Let's see. Now I'm going to talk about my journey here. My journey wasn't like my brothers. My brothers, they were stars. They were all-staters, all-Americans, NHL all-stars. Me, I was just a hard trier. You know, in high school, I didn't have a very good career. Sophomore year, I was a goalie. Junior, as a defenseman. And senior year, I broke my wrist. I only played a few games. So I really didn't, you know, they thought I was the black sheep of the family. And believe me, people called you, they're mean. And no, that's not a joke, that was the truth. Then it finally took a little bit. I started played in Windsor, struggled there for 2 years, and then I started in the very low minors. In Waterloo, Iowa, USHL. I mean, not many guys get out of there. And then I made it to the IHL and with Boston. I went to Boston's training camp. And I got to tell this story. I hope you don't mind the story, because really not a lot. When I was in Columbus, right, do you guys remember the movie Slapshot? Well, the Ogie Oglethorpe. I met the real Ogie Oglethorpe. His name was Bill Goldthorpe. And he came to training camp, and it was unbelievable. Everybody, it's just like the movie. There's Ogie, you know, Ogie. And the first game, he gets in, it's exhibition game, he gets in a fight with this guy about the same size as him. And it was a rock'em sock'em fight. It was back and forth, and it was going pretty good. And then they finally broke it up, and they wrestled him into the penalty box. He gets in the box, and you young people probably don't remember this, but they used to have phones with a base and everything. He gets in the box, sits down, he looks over, the guy's calling the penalty up to the press box. He grabs the phone and yanks it, and when he yanks it, it hits him right in the head. The base hits him right in the head. He takes the handle, he starts beating the guy in the head with the goalie. He was gone. He'd never to be seen, but that was just before the movie too, so I just thought I'd tell that story. And then when I started, me and Jennifer and I started writing this thing. I've been involved in hockey 68 years. And then we'd start, she'd write down a story, And then it kept on going on. This would be like about 5 hours if, I kept on all the stories and everything. But, I was lucky. I finally caught on. What happened was when in Boston's camp, I ran into our goalie was Jim Petty. I don't know if you remember him. He was the third goalie in Boston's chain. They called him Baby Cheese. But I don't know what happened, but he told me, he says, boy, keep doing what you're doing. You're standing in front of the net. And I might have just been skating by and I stopped or something. But he says, keep doing what you're doing. Stand right in front of the goal. So what would happen would be, I would just go, as soon as the puck went in the zone, I'd skate right to the goalie, turn around, and I'd follow the play like the goalie would. And I was a good baseball player, so when people shot the puck at the net, I'd put my stick out, and a lot of times I got it. And it was a goal. So, I mean, it didn't matter. And back then, in those days, a defenseman, they could chop you, they could cross-check and everything. And I could tell the difference between a guy wanting to fight me or a guy just trying to do his job, And it was funny because when I started coaching youth hockey, I thought about this. And this is the way it works in youth hockey. The father has his son play center, right? His best friend's on the wing. And they put all the dummies at defense, right? And when they put the guys at defense, so I'm playing against dummies. And what I used to do is I used to have them push me into the goalie. So a lot of times, maybe I didn't get a point for the goal, but I caused the goal because that dumb defenseman pushed me into him, I mean, that's just some examples. I mean, I getting off on all this stuff. And it's funny because I thought I'd stick to this because I didn't. But another point I'd like to make, a lot of you people played in the Ice Bowl. I don't know if you guys remember the Ice Bowl. The Ice Bowl was 165 by 65. Now think about that, right? All the pro players, or high school players, pro players, college players, 165 by 65. Now, fast track that to USA Hockey, probably 20, 30 years later, everything's small area games, right? So we had it right and we didn't even know it, Sure, we did, And then, let's see. I got to talk about the Sunday hockey school. My dad had a school. One day he had off was Sundays. And what would happen would be he'd get up and he made pancakes. That was his one day off. So honest to God, he'd make about 60 pancakes. That might be a low number. And what happened was we used to like it when Jimmy got up, because what Jimmy would do is flip the pancakes because my dad liked everything burnt. You know what I mean? At least we could eat it tolerable. Then after we ate all those pancakes, jumped in the Country Squire, went by, picked up Norm Calladine, Timmy Regan, and we went on to the auditorium, and then we had a hockey school, 12 o'clock, and what would happen would be the guys that weren't dressing that night for the Reds, they'd come out for the hockey school, and they'd play with us, and it was very interesting. It was like an honor, the Reds. Back then, we didn't have Channel 38, we didn't have, we just had the Reds. The Reds were the biggest thing going. So that was that. And then, God, I'm completely lost on this thing. A few highlights I'd like to give you was when we played the Russians. When I was with Boston, we played the Russians, and Bobby Orr, I'll never forget that because I'd never heard anything that loud in my life. Standing ovation for 35 minutes. Honest to God, I thought the Boston God roof was going to come off, but that was good. And then they came down the bench, and that was the first time I met him. He shook my hand. It was in Time magazine, and he went like this when he saw me. And that was the first time I ever met him. And then about 3 weeks later, his career was at the end there. He was, I guess he was working for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I used to get to the games early, and he came to Rochester to scout for New Brunswick. That was their Chicago's minor league team. And he came and he sat with me for about 20 minutes. What a great guy, honest to God. He was, he was beautiful. You know, he just talked to me like he was really concerned with my career and everything. I really liked that. I was very fortunate to meet him. And then up and down that year with Boston, the next year I got taken by Hartford in the expansion draft, which I thought was really going to be good for me, and not so good. I ended up playing with Gordie Howe, Davey Keon, which was unbelievable. And as a kid growing up, I'm no different than any fan, you know, it was just in awe of those guys. And then what happened was I got sent down at Christmas from Hartford. So they made room for Bobby Hull because I had 16. I forgot to mention, they gave me, for some reason, in Boston, they gave me number 7. I didn't ask for it. You just didn't ask for that stuff, you know. Especially with those trainers, they would say, well, you got to be around here for a few years before you ask for anything, you know. And so they gave me 7, and I'll never forget playing an exhibition game against the Rangers, and Esposito, he was pissed. He thought they should have retired his number, you know. And what am I going to say? Geez, I'm just happy to be out there on the ice. You know, and but that was that. And then when Hartford, I think the reason why they sent me down, another trivia question is Bobby Hull. Bobby Hull got 16 because Gordie Howe had number 9. So I went to Springfield. But in Springfield, right, I get sent down. I get 20 goals in 20 games, right? Hey, when's the call-up? No call-up. GM says, he's good in the small rinks, but the big rinks not so good. But most like my goals were scored in a 200 by 85, so that was a bunch of baloney. So I knew my days were numbered in Hartford. And then after that, once you almost, the NHL, you only get one shot. Plus being an American, and I really got to say this, you know, be positive and everything, but Timmy Regan, Joey Augustine, if they were Canadians, their careers would have been NHL, no problem. But because back then, you've got to realize before 1980, the Olympic team, Americans, they didn't like us. They didn't like us at all. And the only reason that the Americans that did make it were guys like him. He beat the shit out of everybody. And it's the truth. It's the truth. I'm sorry. It's the truth. You know? And now, after 1980, you know, the Olympic team, then they started getting respect. I remember Mike Averzioni, he came in our dressing room in Springfield, and he made the best decision he ever made. He didn't sign. Because if he signed, he would have lasted about 2 weeks. He would have been back in Toledo, and that would have been all over. But, geez, I'm getting long with this, am I? Tell me when I'm... But that's that. Let me just get to page 4. Okay, yeah. Oh, also, too, I got to mention this because a lot of people know me. I feel like I'm talking to in the sports shop here, and you know. But in the year I got called up to Boston, came home after the season, me, Jimmy, and Harvey, we went deep sea fishing. And we ran into a quahogger. And my dad was a quahogger in the off season when he played for the Reds. So we were like all over it, you know, what do you do? What do you do? So we became quahoggers, right? I just loved it. I said, oh, this is great. We don't have to train, we can train. This is our training right now, you know, it's great. So all my brothers did it but Kurt, and I'm the only one who stuck with it. But I think it's the best thing going because it's a workout all the time, you know. And it's sort of like when you're playing at the pro level, you've got to be all in. And if you just waver a little bit, the difference between NHL and IHL could be just that little bit, you know. So that was that. And I took over my dad's business, did that for 40 years, and I coached, I gassed it when I turned 70. I coached Edgewood, I coached LaSalle, and I coached Cranston East, and I was the head coach at Cranston West, And I should have taken my dad's advice before I got into any of that coaching, because he says, just run a hockey school. He says, you get involved in that coaching. He told Harvey that, he told Jimmy that. He said, just do a hockey school and that's it. And, you know, no regrets. I still do a hockey school now, so I love what I do. And in closing, I can say I lived the life I wanted to live. And I have beautiful daughters and a patient wife. And then, thank you for coming tonight. I thank you.
You might notice that I'm not 6'5". Just reverse the numbers. Like so many Hall of Fame honorees before her, our next inductee decided that after her Olympic legacy and highly decorated and competitive playing days were over, it was time to give back to the game that had given so much to her.
Vicki Movsesian Lamarillo. Vicki Movsesian was born in Concord, Massachusetts, and raised in nearby Lexington. She grew up first dreaming of being a baseball player, then a fisherman, and then a champion figure skater. But the lure of hockey took hold. She soon traded in her toe picks for hockey skates, playing for both boys and girls teams. A self-proclaimed runt, smaller than just about everyone she competed with and against, Vicki was nevertheless driven to excel on the ice or on the soccer and softball fields at Arlington Catholic High School. This longtime resident of Lincoln, Rhode Island, entered Providence College in 1990 and completed her undergraduate education in 1994, graduating magna cum laude. It was at PC where she met and later married now New York Islanders assistant general manager and former Providence College Friar, Chris Lamarillo, now parents of 3 beautiful hockey-playing daughters. During her time with the Lady Friars, the talented blue liner was selected to 3 all-ECAC teams, missing a good part of her senior year with a broken leg. After graduation, she won a silver medal with Team USA at the 1994 IIHF Women's World Championships in Lake Placid. 3 years later, she again took silver with Team USA behind the Canadian women. That would soon be avenged. Starting in 1994, Vicki began coaching the women at Northeastern and Providence while also working full-time for Prudential Financial in Boston. In 1996, she began training full-time with the U.S. Women's National Hockey Team, twice competing with Team USA at the Pacific Rim Championships, and both times winning silver. Now her attentions turn to the debut of women's hockey at the 1998 Winter Olympics in Nagano, Japan. Together with Sarah DaCosta, Camry Granado, 4 other Lady Friars, and 2 former Brown All-Americans, they made history capturing Olympic gold. When her competitive playing days ended, Vicki's goals turned to teaching the game. In her words, to educate, motivate, and inspire young girls to believe in themselves enough to achieve their dreams in hockey and beyond. To that end, in 2003, Vicki founded the Massachusetts Spitfires Girls Hockey Program. In 2012, she collaborated with Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Famer Sarah DaCosta to create the Rhode Island Sting Girls Hockey Club. Together, the programs annually suit up hundreds of young women in the U8 to U19 levels to cultivate their abilities and confidence through competition and training on their way to reaching new levels in their game.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 2024 Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame inductee, Vicki Movsesian Lamarillo. Presenting her with her Hall of Fame medallion is one of her former Friar coaches and 2020 Hall of Fame inductee, Bob Belmore.
We say it loud cause we're Rhody proud. We call your name to the Hall of Fame. We call your name to the Hall of Fame.
All right, I'm going to start crying just with a song. This is ridiculous. Okay. Good evening. I'm honored to be here today. Congratulations to all the other inductees. I'm really honored to be in your company. My speech is a little over 2 pages, so not 4. I didn't have the Bruins alumni wishing me congratulations. A few goals for my speech for tonight. I will speak longer than Sarah DaCosta would. I will try not to cry, can't promise that. And I will not speak as long as Brian Burke. Okay? You guys obviously haven't heard him speak. Anyway, so thank you to the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame, Vin and Mal, for your patience and your dedication to growing awareness of the sport in the state and providing a place to keep it active, the history and future. Thank you to Ray, Richard, Andy, and Bob from Rhode Island Amateur Hockey Association, who have interfaced with Sarah and I for years now in support of girls hockey. Congratulations to our Sting team, who's here tonight. That was a lot of fun watching you girls play. I'm inspired by you and your achievements. And congratulations to the young ladies who were honored today for their work in Rhode Island Hockey Interscholastic League. That's a lot of fun. I watch games as well there, and it's inspiring to see how hard you work. Why are we here tonight? I guess to celebrate hockey. I don't choose hockey. My friends will tell you that. It chooses me. I don't know why. It just does. So I guess, as you saw in the video, my story may be a little bit different. I had a brother, thankfully, that didn't want me hanging out with him, which made me fight a little harder in the neighborhood when we were younger to fit in. So my story parallels in 3 ways, has themes. I don't know if any of you have read the book The Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell. More than hard work and determination to be successful is needed. You need chance, timing, and the kindness of people around you. Like double beam. The Chinese proverb, the farmer's luck, if you're familiar with it, it has to do with the maybe mindset where, you know, something good will happen. They say you're so lucky, and you say maybe. Something will happen, and you say, oh, that's too bad. That's, you know, horrible. Maybe. You know, and you just keep working, moving forward. The last part is probably the most fun for me because it's just ingrained in everything I do. It's kind of like the yin and yang, light and darkness of life. Kind of like when I was young, and I'm sure you all can remember when Jim McKay used to say, like, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And you're always attracted a little bit more to the agony of defeat than you were the thrill of victory, because it was like, oh gosh, what's happening to that skier right now? That's the Olympic Games. But I think it's because the thrill of victory happens less often, and the agony of defeat is kind of what you feel sometimes as you're striving to achieve those things. I'm thankful to my parents, as you saw in the video, for not blinking an eye when I told them I wanted to play hockey, which was not popular. I told them I wanted to skate, so they signed me up for figure skating. Shortly thereafter, I let them know that they misunderstood what I was trying to explain to them, and I wanted to play hockey. I actually did both for a while because I did enjoy being on the ice. It was something I loved tremendously, and chance, luck, and timing, my instructional figure skating coach happened to be a 2-time singles figure skater. Her name was Tina Noyes. So I was really taught in my local town by the best. I enjoy playing soccer, softball, swimming, really anything that had to do with like one winner, a race or against a clock or time. I really thrived in that type of environment. I played boys hockey for my local town in Lexington until I was at a tournament in Concord, Mass, and a gentleman there noticed that I was the only girl on the team and asked if I would kind of join in. He was starting a team for his daughter, if I might be interested in playing girls hockey. And I said, sure, I would love to. I just liked the game. It wasn't like, oh, I'm a girl and I have to play boys hockey, because it's faster, and my daughter skates faster when she's around faster people. Yeah, I play better when I play with the Olympic team too. If I'm on the wing or standing in front of the net, just poking home goals. But I just like to play. I didn't feel like I needed to prove anything. And when I played on the boys team, I was accepted just as another player. I'm sorry, Digit, I don't have any stories where I had to like fight for my rights to be on the team. I just was accepted, and I was around people who saw me play or enjoyed my level of competitiveness. They just saw me as an athlete, not a boy or girl, just someone who they knew they could rely on to compete. Fast forward to my senior year of high school. I know I missed a lot of things. You guys don't really need to hear all that. Oh, I'll back up one. So I was playing for Assabet, interestingly enough, that Mr. Bennett mentioned, the 1980 team. My first national tournament was in 1981 in Lake Placid. I was 9 years old, and we were in the village, in the rink. We lost in quadruple overtime, and I got a Player of the Tournament award at 9. We were playing on a 12 and under team, but it was really just being in the village, being in the rink, and the energy of what the 1980 team had done wasn't, I didn't know what was going on politically or the ramifications or impact that that had. I just felt inspired, and I think from that point, I became a dreamer. Coming home from that tournament, my dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness. I was 9. Stop the tears. Now I'll fast forward to senior year of high school. Colleges would line up in our rink. So I didn't have the opportunity to play high school hockey. I played twice a week. I played other sports in my high school, but I played hockey twice a week, 1 practice and 1 game. And 4 games on weekends. And Digit, again, I know you can attest to this because you were there representing your university. Coaches would line the corner of the offensive zone, and they were interested in 8 or 10 of us from a 12-person squad. And I was lucky enough, and I'm very thankful that John Marchetti saw something in me and thought I'd be a good fit for Providence College. I knew there I would thrive academically, socially, athletically, and spiritually. And I had never skated regularly on the ice until I went to Providence College. I was 17 when I entered PC. I was not a scholarship athlete. I didn't have any perks, housing, books. I didn't even have an athletic advisor. Bad luck, the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I learned the value of my education, what it meant to work hard, to work summers, to pay my tuition, to take out loans. It pushed me in ways that I wouldn't have imagined. I'd like to thank my teammates at PC. Life was simpler and fun, and we were there to compete and just be kids, I guess. They were talented and spirited. It was at PC that I saw my second professional hockey game. I'd gone to 1 professional hockey game when I was a child. Coach Marchetti and Double B, I don't know if you remember this, we were on a road trip to Princeton, and they took us to a New Jersey Devils game while we were on the road. And I met whoever was in charge of New Jersey Devils. I had no idea. It was my now father-in-law. And I didn't realize that he was related to some kid named Chris that I stood next to in the orientation line because they lumped the L's and M's together. So thank you, Papa, for being an emotional support for me over the last 34 years. Getting back to the farmer's luck, which, as you've seen in my story, it's kind of there. Between ages 16 and 26, I had been in the pipeline of USA Hockey, which was incredible considering I hadn't trained and I didn't really know that much about it. I was cut for 5 years before I actually made the team. A lot of people potentially could have seen that and said, I guess I'm just not good enough. But I knew that they kept inviting me back. I knew that the other kids were stronger and more experienced than I was, and I knew I had a lot of work ahead of me before I could actually compete with some of those stronger, more experienced girls. After 5 years, I felt like I had the tryout of my life in December of 1993. In January 1994, playing for Providence College against Concordia University at PC, I broke my leg. Oh well, bad luck? Maybe. But what it did was it forced me off the ice and into the stands to watch hockey, which I had never really done before in my life. I mean, granted, when some of the Bruins games would be on, we'd be glued to our television, not because I loved hockey, but because it was 18 inches in black and white, and you had to be glued to it if you wanted to see anything. So sitting in the stands in the perch of a scout, I was able to see I had so much more time and so much more space than I thought as a player. I think I improved more off the ice by watching than I did in all the years that I was playing. And in April that year, I was announced to the World Championship team, only a few weeks of being off crutches from my broken leg. By chance, John Marchetti was the assistant coach. And the head coach, Karen Kay, who played for Providence College, who also was my youth coach, was the head coach of the team. And I think I was picked because they knew that if I was healthy, I would not let anyone down. The national team and Olympic team experience was incredible. That's a speech for another day. I can't even put into words what it meant to us. I love my 98 teammates, and I'm so thankful to have shared that dream with them. 7 of us were from PC. The Olympics inspired so many, and it continues to inspire me. Why did I get involved in youth hockey? I mean, it's like not the thing to get involved in if you've been involved with youth hockey. It's hard to manage. There aren't a lot of people who want to dig in deep and manage youth hockey programs. Well, I realized that hockey was a place for me to compete, make friends, strive and dream, and kind of get away from stresses in life. In 2002, after talking with some of my teammates, I went back into training, actually before that, but for the 2002 Olympic Games. And I was pretty quickly released from the training camp. Once they picked the team, they went on tour, and I wasn't selected. So I was cut from the opportunity to make the 2002 team, which was really disappointing to me. And I realized at that point, hockey wasn't just a game that I was trying to play. I was trying to get back because I missed family. So what did I do with that? I didn't have hockey anymore. I was living in the state of Rhode Island. I didn't really know a lot of people here. So I decided 22 years ago to start a youth hockey program, as you saw in the video, called the Spitfires. It was a name I was called when I was a kid. And I wanted to create an environment where a kid could strive and not have to worry about like how many goals, what they look like, just a place to play. And it mirrored my experiences as a kid. I'm thankful for my former PC teammate, Karen McCabe, for joining me in my crusade to make that a reality and make a difference in Massachusetts. I remember vividly getting a phone call from Richard Oliver 12 years later, asking if it was something that I would be willing to replicate in Rhode Island. And of course, I needed to reach out to my close friend and teammate, Sarah DaCosta Hayes. I either needed to step up and build something in Rhode Island, or for my daughter's sake and Sarah's daughter's sake, have to live with what it became. And being a competitive spirit, I wasn't really willing to take a chance. So thank you to my Olympic teammate, Sarah DaCosta, for being crazy enough to get involved in youth hockey. And because of that, we created the Sting program for our kids, our community, and many of you here tonight. I'm especially thankful for being in Rhode Island and the LaSalle hockey community, the coaches, and the parents who've now become my friends and my new team in hockey. I love the kids' grit. You inspire me. And sitting in the stands, although it be different for me, is the best experience because we can freak out and worry about our kids' health instead of having to worry about X's and O's. I'm thankful for my friends, my family, my husband, and especially my 3 kids, who I have the most fun with in life. As for the rest of my relatives, they opted to attend a family wedding tonight. They know my story, so I guess it wasn't a hard choice for them. In my younger days, I was always pursuing the thrill of victory. Don't we all? We strive. We strive to win that game, get that goal, make that team, earn that paycheck, that job, that promotion. But with maturity, I've come to appreciate the value of the agony of defeat, which happens so much more often, and how both of them go hand in hand in being a true competitor. It's not really taking a negative and turning it into a positive at all. Letting the negative be a negative and fighting through it. My advice, especially for the kids in the room, or even the older dreamers that are here, dream big, win big, fall hard, and do it again and again until you can't anymore. Thank you.
Before she leaves our stage, the Hall has a special bouquet for Vicki to thank her for having been what every young hockey player needs, and she has 3 of them. The support of a dedicated and sacrificing hockey mom. To you, Vicki, and to all those fellow hockey moms out there, we say thank you. Before we get to celebrate the accomplishments of our next inductee, we have a special message from one of last year's Hall of Fame honorees, the head coach of the NHL's Minnesota Wild, Warwick's John Hines.
Good evening. My name is John Hines. I'm originally from Warwick, Rhode Island. Played my high school hockey at Tollgate High School, and grew up with obviously Rhode Island hockey, playing with Warwick Junior and CLCF. And I know tonight's a great night. I know Vin Samini and his crew do a great job for the Hall of Fame induction, and unfortunately I'm not able to be there tonight, but having the opportunity to be inducted last year, I certainly realized how special it is and how meaningful it is to the candidates, their families and friends, and what a great event it truly is. I'd like to congratulate the inductees, Joe, Vicki, Bill, and Chuck, on all of your tremendous accomplishments, and happy for you and your family on a great evening. And welcome to the Hall of Fame. Specifically Tim Regan. Tim was a mentor of mine back in 1993 when I was playing high school hockey, and he was a family friend, and obviously we all know Tim's career, which is why he's here tonight. But just the interest that he took in me as a junior and senior in high school at Tollgate. Had aspirations to play either at Providence College or Boston University, and obviously Tim being a Boston University alumni, he was really good to me. He had conversations and great relationships with Jack Barker, and kind of put me on the map to be able to get recruited, and really provided an opportunity for me to be able to play college hockey at Boston University, got a great education, and obviously get into coaching from there. But without Tim's support, I would never be where I am today. And not only is he a great player, was a great player, great father, great family man, and he was a great mentor. And for me, he's one of the reasons why I've been able to have an opportunity to play college hockey, and also beyond that. So Tim, I still to this day appreciate and value what you did for me, and helped me earn an opportunity to play at Boston University. So I hope tonight you really enjoyed. I know you have a big crew there. Sorry I wasn't able to attend, but I hope you, your family, your friends, and everyone that's there to support you are having a great night. And congratulations again. Thanks for your mentorship, and have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for your much appreciated remarks. Over the years, Rhode Island has developed a number of outstanding goaltenders whose achievements and legacies on and off the ice will long be remembered. Our next inductee is one of them.
Timothy "Tim" Regan. Born in 1949, Tim was a three-time All-State goaltender at LaSalle Academy. There, he registered a minuscule 0.92 goals against average and a remarkable 27 shutouts in 54 career games with the Rams, before accepting a scholarship to play at Boston University. Playing for BU, Regan won 2 national championships and set the Terriers' single-season records for goals against and save percentage. In 1972, Tim was named an NCAA All-American, and as a member of Team USA, he was awarded a silver medal at the 1972 Olympic Games in Sapporo, Japan. When Tim began his collegiate career at Boston University, freshmen were not allowed to play on varsity teams. In his freshman year, he continued his stingy net minding, allowing just 1.12 goals a game to the opposition as the team went undefeated at 17-0. As a sophomore, Tim posted a 2.82 goals against, ranking him second in the ECAC East Division as the Terriers finished third in the ECAC championships. The following year, he helped the Terriers claim the national title while setting BU records for both goals against and save percentage, records that still stand today. In April 1971, Tim was invited to play for the U.S. Olympic hockey team. He respectfully declined in order to maintain his BU scholarship. His education was foremost. In 1972, Team USA played Tim's BU squad in an exhibition game in which Tim stood on his head to seal a 4-4 draw. The following day, Team USA head coach Murray Williamson implored Regan to join the team. This time, he agreed on the condition that he be guaranteed a trip to Sapporo, Japan, site of the games, and that if he was not playing, he could return to BU should they need him. He played well in 10 exhibition games with the national team and traveled with them to Japan. When Team USA declared the playing roster for the Olympic tournament, Tim was left off. True to his word, he returned to BU when he learned the Terriers goaltender had sustained a year-ending injury. Tim would then lead them to their second consecutive national championship and was named tournament MVP.
The final buzzer and the Boston bench goes out to mob Tim Regan. Regan shut out a Cornell team that had scored in its last 224 games. A great story in Regan. The senior goaltender from Providence, Regan performed brilliantly.
After the Olympics, teammate Robbie Fatorik presented Tim with his silver medal. Tim was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres in the 1970 NHL entry draft. He later played 3 seasons in the Sabres organization, primarily with the Cincinnati Swords and the Hershey Bears of the AHL. In 1993, he was inducted into the Boston University Hall of Fame. And in 2000, he was enshrined into the Massachusetts Hockey Hall of Fame with the 1972 Olympic team.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Class of 2024 inductee Tim Regan. Presenting him with his Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame medallion is his proud and lovely wife, Kathy.
We say it loud 'cause we're Rhody proud. We call your name to the Hall of Fame. We call your name to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. This is certainly a humbling experience. So I'm going to read a little bit more than I memorized. My special thanks to Vin Cimini, Mal Goldenberg, the selection committee, and the voting public for this nomination. It's truly humbling. My extended thanks go to Lou Lamorello, Mr. Javi Bennett Sr., Lou Samini and Ben Hayes from LaSalle Academy, Jack Kelly and Bob Crocker at Boston University, Coach Murray Williamson, the U.S. Olympic hockey team coach. And of course, as my daughter loves to hear me tell the story about Brother Patrick at LaSalle Academy, who is an instrumental person in me getting accepted into BU. I think we all know that story. My 134. My thanks to Arnold Lumber Company, my former employer, for attending tonight's festivities. I must admit, as I'm looking at them now, Mr. and Mrs. Arnold, that I was so appreciative that they would even consider coming to see this. I'm glad they did, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself. My classmates and teammates that have kept close ties through the years, I thank you for your kindness and friendship. My family, my wonderful wife, Kathy. We've been married going on 53 years. How she's done it, I don't know. But we keep on creeping up to 53 years of marriage. Our children, our son, Dr. Regan, our daughter-in-law, our daughter, Kelly, a partner at Ernst & Young in Boston, Tanya, our daughter-in-law, and Steve Gutturl, our son-in-law, and 5 wonderful grandchildren, Patrick, Maddie, Michaela, Riley, and Finnegan, or as I call him, CB, Clean Boss. Reflecting back to the early days in Cranston that were spent on the frozen ponds off of Budalong Road, I thought about all the times we used to go to the Boston Submarine Shop, and for 15 cents you could get a submarine sandwich. And we'd scrimp to find out who could come up with enough money to go into the submarine shop and get a sandwich. And that way we'd split it while we were playing hockey down in the ponds. We would scrimp to find 15 cents. My first pair of goalie pads were made by my oldest brother, Terry. Along with my brother, Mike, who we lost 10 years ago to cancer. The goalie pads were made out of discarded canvas bags that came from the Providence Visitor newspaper delivery department. And there was another gentleman who grew up in our neighborhood, and his name was Vinnie Moretti. And he's here this evening with his wife, Carol, and that he declared that if Tim's going to play with the older guys, he had to be the goalie. That was the only way I could play. So that's how I guess I got started. We also would play at Aqueduct Road near the Cranston Pool. And there I met a gentleman who had several sons, a Mr. Don Meller, another key mentor on my behalf. And he had a son my age. His name was Tom. And Tom was just recently inducted into the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame several years ago as a recipient. I remember running up to Tom at the opening ceremonies at the Olympic Games in Sapporo, Japan in 1972, and telling him that if his dad, a World War II veteran, could see us waving to Hirohito, the Emperor of Japan, that he would hang us by our shoestrings or something like that. My family and I have been treated very well by the game of ice hockey. In closing, there is one person in particular an uncle who constantly kept his protective arm around my shoulder and who always stayed in the background, Colonel Walter Stone of the Rhode Island State Police. I will always be indebted to him for what he did for me and my two brothers. Thank you very much for this wonderful honor. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Before we get to our final inductee, it seems like a good time to say thanks once again to our presenting partners whose generosity and support make these annual events and all of the work of the Hall of Fame possible. Special gratitude to the Chase and Moran families and to Rhode Island Hockey, the Rhode Island Reds Heritage Society, and the NHL and NHL Players Association for their continuous and generous financial support. And thanks to our many program advertisers and all of you for your attendance and kind contributions this evening. Thank you. The Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame could not accomplish its mission and initiatives without your generosity and support. The memories of those who were fortunate enough to have seen his fearless and inspired play are equaled only by those who revered him as the epitome of a hockey referee who brought intelligence, fairness, and order to the more than 1,000 games he officiated after his playing days. This is the hockey story of an icon from the golden age of Rhode Island hockey.
Charles H. Chuck Scherzer, a class of 1968 inductee into the Rhode Island Reds Hall of Fame. Chuck Scherzer was one of the most prolific scorers and beloved players to ever skate for the Reds. He played for the Boston Bruins and New York Rangers in the mid-40s and was a solid scorer and rugged player who could check and win battles for the puck in the corners. Born in Brandon, Manitoba, Scherzer played juniors with the Regina Abbots and the OHA's famed Oshawa Generals. At age 20, Chuck joined the Boston Bruins during the 1943-44 campaign as they were desperately short of players during World War II. He proved that he belonged. Chuck was later traded to the New York Rangers for cash and was a key role player for the remainder of the season and part of the next. After his National Hockey League tenure, the hard-nosed bruiser spent 10 highly successful years with the Reds, helping the club capture the coveted Calder Cup in 1949. Over his time with the Reds, the talented center iceman became a team leader, serving as team captain for 5 seasons. He also became one of the highest scoring players in Reds history, a few points behind the all-time leader, Zelio Topazzini. He ranks second all-time in games, third all-time in assists, 9th all-time in goals, and 4th all-time in points. From the center position, Chuck set several league marks during his time in Providence, including fastest 2 goals, 6 seconds, as well as an Ironman streak that reached 309 consecutive games. During his career, Chuck was considered one of the toughest players and hardest hitters in the American Hockey League. He earned respect from the opposition and admiration from those in the stands for his two-way play and was never known to back down to an opponent's aggression when the tough got going. Chuck played senior hockey with the Trois-Rivières Lions and North Bay Trappers. In 1959, as player coach during his 3rd season with the Trappers, a stick wildly wielded by an opponent struck him in the face. He sustained the loss of an eye, ending his playing career. Chuck later settled in Rhode Island and raised his family here. After retirement, he became a longtime fixture as an on-ice linesman during Reds games and a respected referee in the Rhode Island Interscholastic Hockey League.
Ladies and gentlemen, accepting on Chuck's behalf is his proud grandson, Dean, all the way from his office in faraway Taiwan. Presenting Chuck's Hall of Fame medallion is Chuck's grandson of the same name, Chuck Scherzer.
We say it loud cause we're Rhody proud. We call your name to the Hall of Fame. We call your name to the Hall of Fame.
Right. Well, on behalf of my late grandfather, Chuck Scherza, and the Scherza family, including the Notariani and Brule families that we have here in attendance tonight, we'd like to congratulate the other inductees in this year's class, and also a big thank you to Vincent Cimini, Mal Goldenberg, and the Rhode Island Hall of Fame organization for the acknowledgement of Chuck's impact on hockey in Rhode Island, both as a player and as an on-ice official, and also in making this event so special every year and celebrating the rich hockey tradition we have here in Rhode Island. Though he was born in Canada, Chuck really was a true Rhode Islander. In his own words, reflecting on his career and coming to live here in Rhode Island, he said, "I made a decent living here and about 1 million friends." And once you knew him, he definitely was the kind of guy who was your friend for life. He loved it here, and he was proud of Rhode Island hockey community. He was especially proud of the players the state had produced. Expanding a little bit on what Bill Bennett said in his speech earlier, his father and Chuck were really good friends. But Harvey Bennett Sr., he was actually the person that first introduced my grandmother and grandfather, setting them up on a blind date when they were teammates for the Regina Abbots back in 1943. So both Chuck and Harvey would end up as teammates playing juniors for the Oshawa Generals, as it just mentioned in that montage, nice montage there. Before each, they spent time with the Bruins, and both ultimately ended up here in Rhode Island with the Reds. Those of you who knew Chuck, I'm sure all have your own memories of him, because the guy really was such a character. Whether you're a Reds fan, he was your official in high school games, or you just had a few beers with him or whatever. I never got to see him play, but I definitely heard all the stories, and most of them are, pretty wild. I mean, whether it was a memorable fight, and then, I've heard from many people who claim to have been at the auditorium the night the guy decided to break the stick over his head. That always sounded like a memorable one to me. So I knew he was a tough guy. And I later learned, though, as mentioned there, he actually put up some pretty good offensive statistics aside from just penalty minutes. So by all accounts, he was a tough guy, and he certainly carried around his battle scars. The guy had blown out both his eardrums as a kid diving off of train bridges at home in Brandon, Manitoba. Late in his career, while serving as a player coach in Canadian senior hockey, which is basically like a semi-pro minor hockey level, he took a high stick to the left eye, leaving him legally blind in that eye and ending his playing career. But it was back in his rookie season for the New York Rangers, having been traded earlier in the season by the Boston Bruins, that he suffered 2 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. Following his recovery from the lung injury, he played again for the Rangers, followed by a brief stint in Hershey in the AHL, and he was then signed by the Providence Reds for the beginning of the 1945-46 season, and he would call Rhode Island home from this point on. He spent the next 10 years with the Reds, serving as team captain for 5 of those seasons, and winning the Cup with the team in the 1949 Calder Cup AHL Championship. As well as being a fan favorite as a player, spent years as an official, serving as a linesman for AHL games, and also working college and high school games. I mean, he did college games like the Bean Pod, so he actually reached a level of success as an official as well. And yeah, having had the eye injury that was mentioned, and he was an official with one eye. So, and having, I've even heard from some of the people here tonight, have let me in on some stories that, they may have taken exception to a call here or there and suggested that, maybe he'd try the other eye or use the good eye. But from a family standpoint, I mean, despite all the talk of him as this tough guy hockey player, he really was a teddy bear of a guy. I mean, in speaking with all the other grandkids leading up to this and gathering thoughts about what to say here, I mean, it was nothing but laughter amongst us, recalling what a great grandfather he was. And especially the interactions between my grandmother Ann and him were just classic. I mean, my sister, my cousins, and I, we all have our favorites, and we still use those lines regularly. Chuck loved his family, and he wasn't just a guy who was going to ever just sit at home. I mean, we all saw him pretty often, all of our family. He was always on the move, driving around with his daily routines, and stopping by to see family and friends around the state. And he was usually happily whistling and jingling the change in his pocket as well, which drove some people nuts, but that's who Chuck was. I mean, the guy just really, he just always seemed to be in a good mood. Our family was honored by the Chuck Scherz Award that was sponsored by the Rhode Island Reds Heritage Society and was for a period of time given to the top boys and girls forwards in Rhode Island Interscholastic League each year. And we'd be remiss without thanking the late Buster Clegg and the Rhode Island Reds Heritage Society for all of their efforts over the years as well. I remember in the years leading up to the formation of the Red Society where Chuck would meet up frequently, like weekly, for coffee with good friends Buster and also fellow Reds great Zelio Topazzini. And what the Heritage Society would become was something truly special, where we'd have legends of hockey gathering here in Rhode Island every summer to hang out. And I know being able to connect with old teammates and friends from the world of hockey at that event was something Chuck really looked forward to each and every year. So in closing, back in 1993, I was fortunate enough to travel to Winnipeg to attend his induction into the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame, his home province. And at that induction event, I mean, I can't forget how humbled and thankful he was for receiving the honor. So I can only imagine how humbled he'd be to be receiving this honor here tonight. Chuck would be, if he was with us, he'd be 101 years old right now. So we don't foresee there's going to be too many other events quite like this where our family gets to come together to formally celebrate his life in hockey. This has been a great time for us, though, to trade some stories, remembering the character that he was to each of us. I mean, he was Chuck, he was Dad, he was Gramp, and to the little ones, he was Big Gramp. But again, we're just honored to be celebrating his legacy here today in the state he called home for most of his life. And we're grateful that legacy will live on within the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame in the years to come. Thank you.
Vicki, I'm old. I probably won't remember where I parked my car tonight, but sometimes things stick and I can't explain why. You'll sleep better tonight knowing that the ski jumper who epitomized the agony of defeat was named Vinko Bogataj. You're welcome. Before we close the evening, we'd like to ask all of our honorees to join us on stage for a class of 2024 photo, wearing your Hall of Fame jerseys and holding your Hall of Fame medallions. Once all of our honorees are grouped on stage, everyone is welcome to approach if you care to take photos. Please pick up your winning silent auction bids before you leave. Thank you all. We hope to see you here again next year with the enshrinement of our 2025 class. Good evening and safe travels wherever you're headed this evening.